Hey everybody, Tim here with another Star Wars review, part 3, the last part for season 2. So first of all, I think it's kind of interesting that for season 2, I only did it in like 3 parts, whereas season 1 was like 5. But season 1, because the episodes aren't necessarily in chronological order, I had to pull from season 2 and season 3 and other stuff. So it really made season 1 a little bit longer than it should have, whereas season 2 seems a little bit shorter than it should have. In even this, the third part of the season, it's 6 episodes and it's literally 2 3-part stories. And I really like both parts. I think they're both very well done. The first part, which is episodes 12, 13, and 14, it's the Mandalore Plot, Voyage of Temptation, and Duchess of Manalore. Like, overall, it's pretty great. It really kind of deals with Obi-Wan and his history, which it's so, like, kind of nerdy in the background with it's almost like a joke, because it's all about Obi-Wan having a past relationship with Satine, this Duchess of Mandalore. Now, the reason it's kind of funny is if this was ever live action, it would have been amazing if they could have actually done it and even gotten Nicole Kidman to come back, because in the movies, Ewan McGregor plays Obi-Wan Kenobi, whereas Ewan McGregor was in the movie Moulin Rouge, which is one of my favorite movies. It's fantastic. And his character is involved with Satine, the Duchess. And so, I don't know, it was just kind of an interesting little shout out to Moulin Rouge. So I really like that. Jon Favreau is in this trilogy as Pre Vizsla, kind of the villain, which is weird because, like, at first, like, his voice didn't really stand out to me. And, like, I mean, I know what he sounds like. I've seen him in movies and stuff like that. But it's kind of great that he goes from being in this Mandalore plot of Clone Wars to actually being the showrunner for Mandalore. So or the Mandalorian. So I really liked how it was kind of a connection there. And I completely forgot he was even in this. They do kind of reference that Jango Fett is not really a Mandalorian, and he's just a bounty hunter with Mandalorian armor. And if you guys watched my reviews for the Mandalorian TV show, that is one of the things that we talk about. Like, is Jango and Boba, are they actually Mandalorians or not quite? So I really like that. The line "stand and fight," or in your case, just stand, that just stood out to me for whatever reason. We do see the Darksaber, a little shout out to the Old Republic, and then Death Watch kind of being the end of that first episode, which I love seeing the Darksaber. Again, we'll see it through Clone Wars, we'll see it in the Rebels, and, spoiler alert, we did see it in The Mandalorian. So I totally had forgotten all about it in this, so I thought that was really kind of interesting. Knowing that Obi-Wan Kenobi knew Satine from before, and we kind of build up on that history a little bit. The spider droid holding the clone up as a distraction was creepy. Like, it was really, really well done. Like, between the zombie storyline on Geonosis and this, it's insane. I was actually a little bit touched when Obi-Wan Kenobi is like, you know what, fine. If you would have asked me to leave the Jedi Order, I would have done it. And it's just one of these, like, it's this big love relationship where it's a little too late. And then, of course, we go from this to seeing Anakin just kill somebody there at the end. And it's like, we kind of see these little branches, which that's something I've talked about with some of my other Star Wars friends about, like, are the Jedi really, like, as good as they are? So, I mean, to kind of throw out a different kind of universe, there's, like, the Night's Watch of Game of Thrones, where it's like, oh, you're not allowed to sleep with women, you're not allowed to own property, you're not allowed to do this, but they all kind of do it anyway. So when Star Wars first started, and we learn a little bit about this, where it's like, oh, no, you're too old to study, but we'll train you anyway. And then we get the prequels, and it's like, he's too old, but we'll do it anyway. And you just start to learn about how the Jedi aren't really as pure as they want to make people believe that they are. And sure enough, even Obi-Wan Kenobi wanted a relationship. Like, he was ready to leave the Jedi Order if he had known that she was ready. But of course they didn't talk to each other, and then they just kind of fell apart. But it's just kind of interesting because, I mean, there's the Sith and there's the Jedi and then there's the Grey. And it really, like I've always said, like I always thought Luke Skywalker towards the end of Return of the Jedi is actually more gray than anything. And I mean, you start going into the sequel trilogy and stuff like that, and it's like, maybe they've always been a little bit more gray than they have wanted to admit. So stuff like that I think is kind of interesting. By the time we get to the end of the story, 3 parts was a little bit much. I do love the line where it's like, in my opinion, you're being foolhardy. And it's a great kind of reference to the end of Revenge of the Sith, where, in my opinion, the Jedi are wrong and stuff like that. So that was kind of great. Overall, terrific trilogy. Love seeing the Mandalores in there and them kind of slowly bringing in. Like I said, Mandalore is going to be super important through the rest of Clone Wars. It's going to be really important into Rebels, and it's a great part of just Star Wars lore. So absolutely love the first trilogy. Going right into the second trilogy, keeping up with the Mandalorians. We got episodes 20, 21, and 22, Death Trap, R2 Come Home, and Lethal Trackdown. It's all about little Boba Fett. He's so cute. He's voiced by the actor who played him in the Clone Wars, even though it's been like 10 years or something ridiculous. It's been a long time. But he does great. Starting out with the Clone Cadet Brigade, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting. And then we realize, oh, that's Boba Fett, and he's just after Mace Windu because he killed his dad. And so we start seeing other people that we've seen before, like Bosk, who we saw in, what was it, Empire Strikes Back, I think? And then Aura Singh, who had a short cameo in The Phantom Menace, and all of these different bounty hunters. And they're kind of raising Boba Fett. They're like his mentors. So it's kind of interesting. R2 Come Home was okay, seeing like Anakin and Mace Windu like trapped. And then R2-D2 has to go all the way home just to get help and bring them back. And it's like, that's a little bit of a stretch, but it's kind of interesting. And then, of course, the very end, Plo Koon shows up with Ahsoka being his badass self. And the whole scene where they go into the bar, like, again, like, Plo Koon, like, he's amazing. Like, people have talked to me about him before, and they're always like, he's my favorite. And talking about, like, with Execute Order 66 and stuff, how they had to take him down in a plane because if he had just been on the ground, he would have been too powerful. And scenes like this, like, you can see that. Hondo makes his return, which is great. Hondo's the character I love to hate. Like, I don't know if it's because it's just Jim Cummings' voice, right there, Jim Cummings, or what, but I don't know. I always, every time I see Hondo, I'm like, oh, you're such a cheeseball that I can't help it. But overall, Season 2 I thought was really good. Absolutely loved both of these little storylines. I'm curious what you guys think about Mandalore, about Boba Fett. Go ahead, let me know, and I will see you guys next time for the beginning of Season 3.